A new feature launched today that lets you get up to 45 presets in Rise of Kingdoms. And not only am I super hyped about this, but it will also switch your gear and armaments from the army you had it on to the army you're about to use. So in this video, I'm going to go over several things. We're going to talk about why it is that this system is so important, why it is I'm a little surprised about the way it was implemented, but then also taking advantage of this brand new system. I'll show you exactly how I plan to use it. Hello my friends and welcome back. I'm Chisgule Gaming and today's video is sponsored by the makers of Rise of Kingdoms. And it may be hard to believe, but I started playing this game back when there was no equipment at all. I started playing this game, there were no formations, there were no armaments, there were no things you could put on secondary commanders in the form of artifacts and curios, and who knows what will be added to the game next. So it is really the addition of all of these things that has made it at times a little bit sluggish when you're fighting in KVK to switch between your garrison setup or even just to switch outside of KVK between your Ark of Osiris setup and your fighting setup or your canyon setup and so on. And a part of what I really like about any strategy game, but Rise of Kingdoms in particular, is you can put a lot of thought into the different army combinations, the different armaments, the different armor that you're using. And to have to set that up every single time you want to make a swap can be a little time consuming, and often I've made mistakes and I'll have something that's not equipped and I run it out of my city and I'm fighting other people. Everyone has done this. Whether or not you'll admit to it, literally everyone has run troops out of their city at some point without their armaments or equipment, without realizing it. And then later they're like, oh my God, that's why those trades sucked. So this new system will make it so that when you run your troops out of your city and you switch between one preset to another, it will move your gear for you. So for example, I have my gear on my Canyon team now. I made this Gorgo with Hera setup. If I click the button, it will say, hey, do you want to move all your armor and armaments? And you just hit yes, and it switches them all over, which is pretty sweet. This is something I have wanted for a very long time. Now, it's implemented in a way that I was not expecting. And let me just show you Call of Dragons really quickly to show you what I was expecting. So this is Call of Dragons, and this is the expedition. If I go in to challenge something over here, the reason that I'm looking at Call of Dragons is because this is the same family of companies, okay? Lilith and Legu, makers of Rise of Kingdoms, and Farlight, makers of Call of Dragons. It's all the same family of companies. When I go to multi-select in Call of Dragons, all right, I have 5 presets and I can instantly, boom, 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 switch between them. And I can deselect armies from that preset that I don't want to bring, which is pretty cool. Or I can just remove it entirely and change out what's here, okay? So the reason I was sort of expecting this was that this system is very fast to use. Like, I know that preset 1 is my double tank setup. It would be better if I could label it double tank setup, but hey, I hit preset 1, it's double tank, I know that. I hit preset 2, it's single tank 4 ranged. I hit preset 3, it's my level up team. These are the heroes I'm actively leveling. Preset 4 is my pet catching mobility team. And then preset 5 is my Roots of War, that's the equivalent of Ark of Osiris. Now it visually shows me in one screen my artifact and my pet. Now in this game, it's quite nice. Instead of 8 pieces of equipment and 4 armaments per formation that I'm managing per march, it's just one artifact instead of all that equipment. It's just one pet instead of all of the armament stuff, right? And it, I can click it to see more information if I really wanted to. I can switch their order, whatever. A lot of things I can do, okay? And like I said, if I'm not able to send all the armies out, like let's say I just want to send 2 armies, right? I just deselect the ones I don't want to send. I hit deploy and it deploys them. All right, so I thought we'd be getting a system like this to Rise of Kingdoms. And this to me would be probably the fastest, most exciting way to use these new presets, because I could have a preset for, here's my rally field setup, where it's like, hey, this is my rally, these are my fielders. I could have my garrison fielders set up. I could have my fielding set up, and I could just boom, 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 switch very quickly between them, right? But what we have in Rise of Kingdoms is also really cool. And let me jump into Rise of Kingdoms to show you this, all right? So The way that I think I'm going to set it up, and I went in and I spent a bunch of time moving stuff around. I haven't moved around all my equipment yet, which I will go do, and all my armaments yet, which I will go do. But I just started to think about how am I going to organize all 45 of these slots? And for those of you wondering, bro, Chisgule, show me how to get the 45 slots. If you haven't seen yet, the way you do this, okay, is you're going to go, like you're going to send out an army. You're going to hit the green arrow to the right, all right? Then you're going to hit the cog on the right. And then you're going to hit the little plus to add marches. All right, now you've got empty slots where you can make presets. Okay, so that's how you do that. You get to your 15 and you can go and you can set them. All right, so what I've done is I'm using my blue presets for open field. I mean, I want access to this the fastest. So presets 1 through 7 are going to be my open field marches this KVK. I don't know if these are my final marches. I wanted to make 7 just to see, like, how am I even going to arrange this? Then what I decided to do is to make preset 8 what I would anticipate my garrison to be. That's Gorgo with Attila. And preset 9, Gorgo with Hera. Now, what I realized is that although the game will switch your equipment and armaments over, right? Like, here, look. I'm going to load this preset. Now it's got the gear on. Okay? Pretty cool, right? But what won't happen, unfortunately, is it doesn't move the curio or the artifact from the secondary commander. So I made a preset down over here just to be able to move the artifact from one march to another so I don't have to go into my other screen. So preset 14 is just Attila, and it's got the artifact on him, so I can switch that over. If you have some other march that you're going to use an artifact on, like for the open field, you might set up 2 presets for that. But I've basically got a couple garrison options and then my alternate field options. And I've got Liucha with Alex, which I have it here just to illustrate, like, that's a field march. A lot of people recognize it as a great field march. And Liucha Sargon would probably be what I would use to swarm a garrison instead of the Alex. So I've got kind of 2 options here for how I move my infantry gear around. But remember, when I go to garrison something, I need to move a whole bunch of gear onto my garrison from other places, right? So I'll probably take all gear off my Guan March, move my backup gear to my Liucha Alex, or whatever that combo ends up being, which is why I have it here. And so it's the alternate gear set, and then the primary gear, whatever I determine that to be, goes on the Gorgo with Attila, all right? So in addition to all that, I've also got a rally in here, just as an example. Tariq ibn Ziyad with Ash, and then I've also got Liucha with Attila because artifact KVKs are very fun, actually. So then I'm using my red presets for Ark of Osiris. And I started to make these. I'll mess around with these more because I'm going to want to have like a preset for double C, right? I'm going to want to have a preset for a garrison fill. I'm going to want to have an alternate open field march if for some reason I'm not garrisoning. I'm going to want to have an alternate garrison. I'm going to have all that set up. So all of my red stuff is going to be Ark. And then I've got 7 barb marches in 1 through 7 in the yellow tier. In the slot 8, I've got my pit march. Slot 9, I've got my rune gathering march. Possible, it's depending on what equipment overlap is, it's possible I could just carve that off and use that from Ark of Osiris, but whatever. And then I've got my Barb Fort Rally over here. And then the final 5 slots are my Ark of Osiris team. So if I want to put my gear back onto my Ark team, all right, I can hit confirm, and yeah, it's all moved over. It's all moved over now. Pretty cool, right? So all in all, this feature is sweet. Like I said, it was not exactly what I was expecting because I was sort of anticipating, oh, if you did this in Call of Dragons, we'd get something similar here. But this feature is absolutely a game changer. And you just want to spend some time before you're actually like about to jump into a fight to really put some thought into, all right, exactly where am I going to put these things? Now, on the topic of exactly where certain things are, I don't yet know where our museum buffs are. Presumably, these will show up later with Museum Week. I'm very hyped for new levels of museum buffs on Constantine, Alexander the Great, and others, but I don't yet see the upgrade option here. All right? There are, of course, a few other things that dropped in this patch. Like, theoretically, if I update, can I see the new cavalry commanders in game? Not yet. So those will show up at some point. In the next week or so, we're expecting a bunch of museum-related events. Also, I mean, okay, for those of you that are into emojis, there are some new emojis that you can go and check out. So if I go to settings, emoji, the animated emojis, we got new ones for Justinian and also Theodore. For those of you into that kind of stuff, I don't know. I'm pretty happy with Sips T, to be perfectly honest. Also, Esongs. I don't know why I unlocked Ashidas. I don't know what I was thinking. This is my reaction to the fact that I unlocked this emoji. I mean, it's kind of cool. I really need to work on Martel. Martel's got some sick emojis, but I don't know. Now I'm talking about emojis, so I've strayed off into Never Neverland. However, I think we do have a pass opening coming up. I don't think we have fighting in this zone over here. I mean, they could fight us. I don't know that they will, but I will almost certainly be streaming that when that happens, under the assumption that, like, hey, maybe something cool will happen. If I get a look at the Chronicles over here, really should sort of know when it's going to be, but I don't know. I just buy all the bundles and I'll be ready. all the crystal bundles, and I'll just be ready whenever it happens. So it looks like we got about 2 days for this to happen. So not tomorrow, but the day after. I'll probably just go and stream that. All right. And if not that, there'll be something cool to do, I'm sure. All right. So subscribe if you haven't already. If you like the latest and greatest info about things that are happening in Rise of Kingdoms. All in all, I am very hyped for this update, and I look forward to the sort of continued refinement of our ability to make presets. I mean, if you think about it, we started with no presets on our armaments. Thank goodness we have those presets now. And we started with no presets for our equipment. Thank goodness we have it now. And you know what else is really cool? Like, if I want to be making these presets, one bonus tip, you made it to the end of the video. I appreciate you. So when I'm making my preset for, let's pick this cavalry march, I can go in, okay, and I don't have to select the individual equipment. I actually can go in and I can select from my presets. So this is kind of cool. So I can say, give me my best cav, or I can say, give me my second best cav. We'll use that one, all right? And then for my inscriptions and armaments over here, I have my second best cav somewhere, second cav, right? So I can just hit use. It's not amazing, but yeah, like confirm. And then I save that. So there's definitely some cool things you can do when you make these presets based on the evolution of how presets have worked in this game. So that's worked out in a way that I think is kind of exciting and that I didn't expect. If you want to see my thoughts on the 2 new commanders that are on their way into the game, the 2 new calves, all have cards in the end screen, I think both of them are probably being underrated compared to how good they'll actually be. But I also think people are only going to believe that once we have our hands on them to test them, which I'll do in live streams. So again, subscribe, and until next time, you have fun smashing the kingdom.